Hi friends, welcome to another cozy evening, a nightlight. Grab your favorite tea and let's journal together. Today I'm going to share some journal prompts of how I work through my anxiousness, and this is not like a hey look, this is how I did it kind of video, but it's more of a way for me to document how I worked through my anxiousness and how it has helped me. So I hope it also helps you. And it's also for me, as a reference in case in the future I forget how I worked through my anxiousness at some point and I need something to refer back to. Always very future focused. My personality, that is my strength. I'm very future focused, but the problem sometimes is that I'm also a bit anxious because I'm thinking about the future. If you have any journal prompts or any tips that help you with your anxiety, feel free to drop them in the comments below and share them with me. I would love to incorporate that into how I deal with my anxiousness. So journal prompts for when I feel anxious. Let's peel off the first layer. So usually the first thing I would get myself to journal about is what is the situation that is triggering this anxiousness. Simple questions like who, what, when, why, where, and how. The 5 W's and 1 H. And this is like the first layer of the onion, right? You're just describing what you're feeling, you're describing the situation that is triggering it and how it makes you feel. You're just describing what happened, what is the sensation, and the context of which you're feeling your anxiousness. The next step I'm gonna do is dive a little bit deeper. And I'm going to be using the 5 why method. So I found this method really useful in really getting into the root cause of a problem that you're trying to solve. Many times we stay at the surface level and we don't really address the root cause, and that's why we find ourselves stuck in a cycle because we're not really solving or addressing the root issue. So the 5 whys is a problem solving method that helps you to really find out, like I said, what is the root cause by asking why 5 times, or rather asking why until you get to the root of the problem. For example, if I'm feeling anxious whenever somebody messages me after a working hour, I will ask myself, why do I feel anxious about that? I have this reaction that every time someone messages me outside working hours, it is an emergency. And then I ask myself, why do I feel anxious about that? And I'll keep digging deeper, and maybe I would realize that, hey, I have this fear of imperfection, of making mistakes, because I believe that I'm going to be ostracized very heavily for making a mistake. Maybe that has happened in my life before, and I use that one incident as the truth for all incidents, which actually is not true if I were to really look at my life and the situations where I have made mistakes and people do not react viscerally or in a bad way. So by asking myself why, I realized that I have this mindset about imperfection and about making mistakes, and this fear of making mistakes or not being perfect, fearing that people would reject me because I made a mistake. So after I'm satisfied that I found out the root cause of my anxiousness, let's put a pin on that, and then I'm gonna work through 3 worst case scenarios. Yes, is one worst case scenario not good enough? I must work out 3 worst case scenarios. So I will work out 3 worst case scenarios of what could possibly happen or what could possibly go wrong. And for each situation, I would allow myself to play out and write out what I would do in those situations. Let's say this worst case scenario 1 really happened. And this really helps me because I think it becomes a practical exercise where I'm thinking and actually walking through what I would do if a situation like this happened, and it helps me to be prepared and to know that I can take certain actions in response to this scenario and I can handle it. Most of the time, it's something that I realize is not as crazy or not as scary, that it's not something that I cannot handle, but actually, hey, you know what? I can handle this situation. Then it becomes the serenity prayer, which is help me accept the things I cannot change, courage to take action, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I think the acceptance part is something that I'm also really learning to, well, actually all the parts I'm learning, like learning to really accept things that I cannot change, and then the courage to do the things that maybe are difficult to do or I'm scared to do it, and the wisdom, of course, to know the difference. I then ask myself, does worrying help my situation in any way? After all this thinking that I've done and journaling that I've done, I've thought through all the different worst case scenarios. Does my extra worry help? And does my extra anxiety help in any way? If the answer is no, because I've already thought through it and honestly there's really nothing much I can do, then I would tell myself, let's not waste any more time, let's not waste a minute. Enjoy the days that you have leading up to this event because you've done all you can. And if the answer is yes, worrying might still help, then I'll continue journaling until I've exhausted all my thoughts out onto the journal. Then I ask myself, are there any mindsets that I need to change in this situation? Do I need to change the narrative that I'm telling myself? What is a story that I'm telling myself that is causing this anxiety and might not even be true? And this is where I go into my library of favorite writings, favorite quotes, Bible verses, favorite stories that I've encountered throughout my days of reading or movies or TV shows, and pull out something that I would need as a reminder. So for example, one of my favorite quotes that I came across was from this documentary called Breakpoint, which is a documentary on Netflix about all these tennis players, these top athletes, and how you realize that tennis is a lot about the mind, that there's a lot of mind games that is happening and a lot of internal battles happening within the player's mind, and what happens in their mind plays out on the court. And there's this quote in one of the tennis court. It says, "Pressure is a privilege." That quote actually made me kind of turn my head on the idea of pressure, because I'm somebody who doesn't really like pressure. There are some people who are like, yes, I perform under pressure. I'm not one of those people. But this quote made me realize that, you know what? Pressure is a privilege, especially when it comes to work, because if you are in a situation where you have the pressure to perform, it means that there is an expectation for you to perform, because the alternative would be there is no expectation for you to perform it at all, which is actually not a good thing if people don't expect good things from you. This quote made me kind of change my mindset a little bit towards pressure, to see pressure as actually it's a positive thing, it's a privilege, and to embrace it more rather than something that is negative that I keep trying to run away from. So this is the point in my journal where I highlight and write down a quote that I need to help me in this particular situation that I'm anxious about. To have this quote in my face to remind my anxious thoughts every time an anxious thought about this particular situation comes into my mind, I would be able to counter that anxious thought with a reassuring one, a quote of confidence. So these are the little journal prompts and kind of thought process that I like to take myself through whenever I face anxiety in my life, and I hope this little journal prompt exercise walkthrough helps you. I have put a link in the descriptions below for my Canva template. It's just a fun little template that I did that you can use to journal and hopefully help you with your anxious thoughts. Thanks for joining me in this journal prompt video. Enjoy your tea, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!